Hello and welcome everybody. This is Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars and the N+1 podcast. I'm so glad that you can join us. And on this podcast, we talk about our hobbies, our passions, and our obsessions. And we just jump down the rabbit hole together and talk about the things that we love. I'm a musician. I like to play guitar. I like to fix guitars. I like to repair guitars and build guitars. And, as a guitar player, as a musician, we always talk about how many guitars is enough guitars, N+1. Okay. And I found that to be true about basically any hobby, any obsession. Right. And I think Stephen will agree with us today. Today, I'm joined by Steve from R.A.F.O, Stephen Pond. Steve has a great YouTube channel called R.A.F.O. Steve, welcome.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Hi. How you doing? Yeah. I'm glad that you're here. And I think you can agree, right? How many books is enough books, Steve?
Always the next one, I think, is
There's always
that's the nerdy answer to it. There's always another book, especially with this year coming out. There's always another book.
Or sometimes 5 books. Just pulled out of nowhere. What are we talking about? I brought Steve on. Steve, I've been wanting to talk to you. I've been a fan for a long time. I'm just a dude in the comments, reading your, watching your YouTube videos, because you make YouTube videos about Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere. And I'm like, dude, I'm in, right? And I'm watching your videos because you take deep dives into the Cosmere, and like I deep dive, right? I jump onto the wiki and I jump down the rabbit holes, and I'll read the WOBs, which are the words of Brandon. I'll go down.
Words of Brandon.
And I feel like I got a grasp on these things, and I watch your YouTube videos, and I'm like, man, okay, I thought I understood. I didn't understand. You really explain things. You take us really down the rabbit hole and you explain it. But today, what are we talking about? Today, we are going to talk about basically the Cosmere. I mean, we can open it up to all of the Brandon Sanderson, but mostly we're going to talk about the Cosmere. And what that is the works of Brandon Sanderson, who is, I would say arguably, I'm not going to say arguably, he's the greatest fantasy author of our time. I'm a fan, so I will say that. I don't know if you coined the term, but I love that you said it in one of your videos. We are Branderson, Sanderson, Fandersons.
The Branderson, Sanderson, Fanderson. Yep, that's us. Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to jump into this and say, for the uninitiated, if someone's listening to this, because we talk about everything, we talk about acting, photography, guitars, we talk about everything. If someone's sitting here listening to this, who is Brandon Sanderson? It means they don't read a lot. Okay. Maybe they don't read, they don't read fiction. Maybe they don't read fantasy. A lot of people don't read fantasy. It's kind of come into its own in the last 20 years, right?
Absolutely.
So who's Brandon Sanderson, and what the heck is the Cosmere, right? Maybe you can just lay the groundwork for that and for this discussion. And I'll say, just maybe for the scope of this conversation, maybe we'll leave the first 2/3 of our conversation mostly spoiler free.
Try to go spoiler free. We can do that. Absolutely.
Maybe the last bit we'll maybe talk a little spoilery.
We'll dive.
Yeah, just a little bit. Okay. What do you think? What is the Cosmere?
So put very simply, I mean, most people have probably heard of Sanderson in one way or another, if anything, just from the recent Kickstarter, because he just had the most successful Kickstarter ever, more than doubling the number 2 spot. Yeah, the number 2 was the Pebble watch, which I actually had a Pebble watch. I was super sad when it died, like my favorite watch ever. And then that was $20 million on Kickstarter. That was the number 1, most successful. And then the most recent Kickstarter from Brandon Sanderson was the secret novel, 4 Secret Projects Kickstarter, which ended at over 41 million. Right. So that broke the internet solidly. There were a lot of articles, there were news stories all over the place talking about this author who doubled the most successful Kickstarter ever. So he's an author. That's to sum up in one word, he is an author. He is a creator of worlds. And one collection of those worlds he has created has been called the Cosmere. It's basically all of his adult fiction novels except for some. They all are, for the most part, their own separate individual stories, but they all take place in the same shared universe. And all of these stories are connected in one way or another. There may be certain characters who you meet in one book, who then show up on another book, which is technically on a different planet and a different world, different society. Or there will be an artifact or an organization that you are introduced to in one novel that you see in another novel. And initially, when he was writing these books, it was all very behind the scenes. Most of the connections were solid, just Easter eggs for the people who were really paying attention would notice that, like, hey, wait, who's this Hoyd character? That's a name from another book. And now it's showing up in this book.
I recognize that name. That was
something.
What's going on here? Yeah,
something's going on.
And that was that way for like maybe a solid 10 years or so.
At least,
it was only the fans that were in the know that were like, this is a Cosmere. These are connected, and you saw the Easter eggs, and that's all they were. Easter eggs. It wasn't a big connected story. Until it was.
Not until we really got to the Stormlight Archive, which is Sanderson's magnum opus series.
Right. That's what I call it too.
Yeah. That's when the connection started coming more to the forefront. I mean, it's still not like you don't have to read the entirety of the Cosmere to understand and enjoy what happens in the Stormlight Archive. If you start with the Stormlight Archive, which for those who have not read yet, that starts with the Way of Kings. It's not my recommended starting place, but it is definitely a starting place. If you start with Way of Kings and you read through the Stormlight Archive without reading any of the other Cosmere novels, you're not going to be confused. But once... Really, with this most recent Mistborn book, with the final book in Mistborn Era 2, Lost Metal, that's when it really starts to impact the story. I don't think anyone would still be confused if they haven't read any of the other Cosmere books and just started reading Mistborn, but there are things that you would recognize you're missing at this point.
Right. Yeah, I kind of feel like and Brandon's always been really good about, like, you can read just this book or just this series. You're not going to be confused. You're not going to be lost. And these are Easter eggs. And you can really pick any series. You can start there. And I think for the first time, especially with how he ended up Lost Metals, this is the first time I would tell someone, don't start on Mistborn season Era 2. Especially how he ended it. Like, if, any other, So that kind of gets me to the next question, which is, and I think any Cosmere Sanderson fan would have some story of, how did you find your way into the Cosmere? I like to say, this is what I always say, is what was your gateway drug?
Absolutely.
This is the question I always ask.
My gateway drug to the Cosmere, I first started reading the Cosmere right after I got married, which was 11 years ago. So I started reading Mistborn and loved it. My wife is a big reader as well. So I started reading Mistborn and went, this is amazing. And then we started over and we would read it to each other before we would go to sleep. We'd take turns reading chapters. And so that was how I first...
Can I ask real quick, how did you find Mistborn? Like, what was it how did it end up in your hand?
That's a great question. Let me see if I can remember. I believe I was first... It was recommended to me by... I want to say my oldest brother, who is brilliant, and he's read everything fantasy that you can imagine, except for Wheel of Time, because Robert Jordan died when he was in high school, and so he never started Wheel of Time because he didn't want to read an unfinished series, which is ironic now that Sanderson finished it. But so I believe it was either my oldest brother Aaron or my father-in-law who said, hey, read this book. This is great. And so I picked up Mistborn and absolutely fell in love with it. I remember doing laundry, sitting on the washing machine at our little apartment complex, just pouring through Mistborn because it was so good.
Right.
And that introduced me to Sanderson. And then from that point, I wanted to just read everything that Sanderson had written. It took me a while to accomplish that, just because he is such a prolific author.
Yeah.
I had a few false starts getting into Elantris, his first published novel, which is easily his roughest, is very early in his writing career, and his style has definitely evolved and improved significantly since then.
Right.
But going through and just reading all of the Cosmere, and then noticing those little things like, wait, there's this Hoid guy who's in Elantris who also shows up in Mistborn, but then shows up in Mistborn again. And what is tiny insignificant things that you realize lead to a much larger picture. And once I really started researching and diving into what was going on behind the scenes, I found that I really wanted to make sure my understanding was as good as it could be. And the vehicle for that was I wanted to make YouTube videos. So that's how I steered myself into content creation, so focused on Sanderson.
Nice. I know for me, like, I tend to pick a author and then just like devour, right? You know, I did Orson Scott Card. I've probably read 20 or so of his novels or something like that. And Frank Herbert and, you know, J.R.R. Tolkien. And I would just pick a guy. It's like, okay, I like this writing style. And, you know, and then I would just read a bunch of stuff. And I was kind of in a, like, okay, what do I read next? And I posted on, I think, Facebook or something. And someone said, Wheel of Time is probably the best fantasy ever written. I said, hey, I'm looking for fantasy or science fiction. Wheel of Time is probably the best fantasy ever written. And
the bold claim.
You know, and the Robert Jordan passed away, and then it was finished by Brandon Sanderson, who did a good job ending it. And once you're done reading that, you should read Mistborn 2, because those are really good as well. And I was like, okay, Wheel of Time, let's read that. And I read Wheel of Time, and I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. But then after that, I read Mistborn, and I was just like, okay, you know, Brandon, I'm in. And I just did all the Brandons. The funny thing is, after I did all the Brandons, I went back and read Wheel of Time again. And the funny thing is, Brandon actually taught me how to read epic fantasy, and I enjoyed Wheel of Time so much more the second time around, because I understood epic fantasy so much better, because I'd been reading epic fantasy from Brandon. I'd read, like, Wheel of Time, I just like read through it. I was like, okay, yeah, well, okay, whatever's going on here. And I got through it. And then when I came back to it, I was like, man, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing that. You know, Brandon pulled so much from Robert Jordan.
Yeah.
When you go back and see the Robert Jordan, you know, anyway, yeah, it was just really.
That's interesting. That's sort of opposite to my experience, because I started with Mistborn. And then after getting fully indoctrinated by Sanderson, in the quest to read everything that he's ever written, I realized, I need to read Wheel of Time. And so I started Wheel of Time with the singular goal of completing it just to read Sanderson's contribution. And the first, like, 4 or 5 books were really interesting and engaging to me. And then book 6 got harder, and book
basically,
7.
Everyone has that. Everyone has that experience.
The lull,
they call it
in
the
middle,
slog. They literally they call it the slog. It slows down. It's like the stuff in there is important, and it's just really slow. And when Brandon takes over again, it immediately the pace picks up. Immediately it's just immediately like you know, even Brandon admits he has some trouble with some of the narrative of some of the characters, but you know, I felt like he was true to just about everything, and then like the ending is so magnificent. I thought it was really good. But you did mention one thing, and you know, this is pretty famous lore out there that Brandon wrote 13 novels before he was published, and the Elantris was his first published novel, which was the 6th novel that he wrote. And you were kind of right. You know, you go back and read that, and it's a little clunky. It's definitely, you know, it's definitely his most unpolished work.
Yeah.
But it's also still, to me, still has all of the, what I consider like the Brandon hallmarks.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Which are, you know, like a really great magic system, first of all. It has, to me, like the biggest Brandon hallmark, which is that like when you have like a sympathetic antagonist, it, like where you they're not,
you understand the point of view of the
right.
like main villain. You get
understand
it. It makes sense.
exactly. Yeah. You understand how they would make those decisions if you were in their place.
Yeah.
That's like a hallmark of Brandon. You know, female characters that are like actual people. You know, that are, you know, fully fleshed out. Yeah. So I like
compelling world building is really significant for me.
Switching narrative points of views.
Oh yeah.
A Sanderlanche. We can't have a discussion about Brandon without talking about a Sanderlanche. I feel like all of the hallmarks are in that, and it is a little clunky, especially towards the beginning. But the end is, you know, has all the things, and it's definitely a good read.
I'm a big fan of rereading Sanderson novels as well, and so while my first time through Elantris, I struggled to get, like, I struggled getting through Fellowship of the Ring. Like, I tried to get into Fellowship of the Ring probably 5 times before I finally made it past the Rivendell chapters, and then was able to get in the story and had a grand old time. Elantris was similar to me, where it took me, I think, 2 or 3 tries to just really get into it. But then with every reread that I've done afterward, it's been a breeze. I've loved every second of it.
Well, and, you know, I mean, talk about, maybe someone saying the slog. I mean, you know, talk about Brandon's magnum opus is the Stormlight. And, you know, it starts with the Way of Kings, which I've probably read that 3 or 4 times now. And Way of Kings, and I always say this, if you're going to read Way of Kings, it was the first book I ever read where I was 3/4 of the way through the first time. And I was like, I don't know what this book is about. I don't know what the plot is, and I can't put it down. Right? You know, that's fair, right? Like, if you're reading that book, you're like, I don't know what the plot is, because the plot isn't really shown until the second book, really. Right?
I mean, for me, when I finished, let's see, was it once you get to the end of Words of Radiance, like literally the very last chapter in Words of Radiance, I got to that point, finished the book, and went, okay, the prologue is done. Like, it felt like a 2,000-page prologue, because at that moment, all of a sudden, okay, you've got all of the viewpoint characters together finally. You've got a very clear path moving forward with the storytelling, and everything previous to that had felt just like a setup of getting to this moment, and now we can actually move on. I mean, a very interesting and compelling, and I love it, prologue, but a 2,000-page prologue.
You know, I think that's very fair. And Way of Kings famously starts with 4 prologues. So that's just the 5th prologue. Is the rest of that book and the next book. So let's get into my questions, which are the next question. The first real question is, if someone was going to get into reading Brandon and the Cosmere in general, what are some maybe misconceptions that people might have about maybe epic fantasy and the Cosmere and just the whole thing?
I feel like a lot of people approach epic fantasy or fantasy in general as escapism, especially if you don't read fantasy very regularly. I have had people who have looked down on fantasy readers and like, oh, you're just reading that magic fluff. Like, a lot of people just equate it one-to-one with Harry Potter or with Twilight or with any of these other not as weighty
definitely
stories. And I know people are going to come after me for saying Harry Potter isn't weighty or significant, but you don't really get to significant things with Harry Potter until book 5.
Sure.
I mean, mostly because Harry Potter was written for a aging demographic. Like, it was written for 10-year-olds with book 1, and then it was written for people who were growing up, and the books fit those demographics as you go through it.
Sure. Can I just butt in and say, like Harry Potter, like everyone's kind of turned on Harry Potter lately, and I won't have it. Those books are awesome. Like, read Harry Potter. They're awesome. Anyway, keep going.
See, I did not like Harry Potter when I was first reading it. It took me a bet with a coworker of mine who absolutely loved Harry Potter. We bet each other. Well, we didn't. It wasn't so much a bet. It was an agreement where if I read the entirety of Harry Potter, he would read Mistborn Era 1. And so I figured it was a fair trade. So I read all of Harry Potter, and that second read through, I really enjoyed it. I loved it a lot. And he read Mistborn Era 1, and he thought it was okay, and that was fine.
I did a trade with my daughter. She's dyslexic, and so she does audiobooks. And she really liked the Wings of Fire audiobooks. And she's like, Dad, I love these Wings of Fire books. You should check them out. I was like, I'm not reading these, these like kids, dragon books. It's like, Dad, you should read them. I'm like, no, what you should do is you should read Harry Potter. You're the perfect age for them. You will love them. I know you will, because they're awesome and you'll love them. I don't want to read them. And I said, I will make you a trade. At the time, there was 14 Wings of Fire books, and there were 7 Harry Potter books. I said, I will make you a trade. For every Harry Potter book that you listen to, I'll read 2 Wings of Fire books. And we did. And then we went through all the Harry Potters and all the Wings of Fires. We did a trade, and every single time we got done, we would sit there like fan geeks, and we would nerd out about the books. And did you see what Oasis did? And I can't believe what Byrne, man, she's such a mean queen. And then can you believe what Snape did and all that stuff? And then the great thing was they kept releasing Wings of Fire books, and so we just kept getting the books, and they would come out, and and I would listen to them because I commute. I would listen to them, and then we would talk about them, and it was just great. It was a great way to bond with my daughter, and we would nerd out about them, and yeah, it was great. It was awesome.
My initial conversion to reading was when I was in 4th grade. Previous to that, I didn't enjoy reading at all, which is actually somewhat similar to what Brandon,
right?
What Sanderson's experience was, because he didn't really get into reading until 4th grade as well. Interesting. Anyway, my love of reading really stemmed from getting into Animorphs. And if you're familiar at all with Animorphs,
not at all.
Great. Then if you're passively familiar with Animorphs, I'm not sure if you've ever seen the covers of the books. It's like the original covers were like a little animal that eventually through bad Photoshop morphs into a person, or other ways, depending on whichever way you go. It's about a group of young adults who meet an alien who gives them powers to be able to shapeshift into any animal they touch.
Okay.
And he introduces them to a current secret interplanetary war going on. There's an invasion of Earth by an alien species. And so they become basically fighters on the front lines of this secret alien invasion of Earth. And they use their animal morphing powers in order to combat this alien invasion. And as a 4th grader, this was incredible to me. It was really compelling. For lack of a better word, the magic system was very straightforward and understandable, and sure. I could relate on a very meaningful way to these characters. And so with just that understanding, and if there was nothing beyond that, I would understand people's approach to saying, oh, fantasy is just escapism and fluff, and it's just something to get away from your day-to-day boring, normal, not magic-filled life. But looking back on my experience with Animorphs as a kid and rethinking all of the things that happened in that story, the whole series is like 40 or 50 books long. They're tiny, sure. But it's a really, really long series. And the topics that are addressed in that series are incredibly heavy. There's just really, really difficult things that are framed in such a way through this fantasy story that makes them understandable and digestible for a fourth grader or for a child.
Sure.
And that, I think, is the real power of fantasy. It's not just escapism. It's changing your frame of reference and allowing you to learn lessons and understand difficult ideas that would otherwise be impossible for you to take in. It's allowing, changing how you expect to think about something, and therefore allowing you to think about things in a different way, simply by changing the framework that it's presented in.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples of what you were just talking about is in Stormlight. Okay, Brandon wrote in that the Lethe women always cover their left hand. They call it the safe hand.
The safe hand.
Right? And he says this is one of the questions he gets asked more than anything else. It's like, what does it mean? Like, it's got to mean something. My sister told me this. She's like, no, Brandon wouldn't put that in unless it really means something. And he literally always, he goes on and on. He's like, no, I just put it in to point out how silly the rules that we put on society are. And, that's the kind of thing that fantasy can do. On Stormlight, the men don't read, like the women read and write and the men don't read and write. Why? Because that's because, it's like,
because
it's
society said so.
Right. And it's as dumb as the things that we do with like, with like racism and like all this stupid stuff, and it's like,
oh yeah. The race and class distinction in Stormlight is fascinating.
Yeah,
and
based
you'll
on
have
eye color or
yes,
whatever,
exclusively eye color. And so you'll have people who will decry the classist situation in Stormlight, but then live their lives as not good people. And you're like, wait, no, you're not understanding the lesson being taught in this fantasy. Like it's very clearly saying, hey guys, this is not the way to do it. We are doing it wrong in the real world.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's move on, man. These are great answers. This is awesome. I love this conversation. What are some of the biggest challenges, maybe being a Cosmere fan, or maybe trying to subtly recruit people to be Cosmere fans that you've encountered?
The challenges of recruiting people, of converting people to the Cosmere, to Sanderson. The biggest challenge to overcome to this point is just getting people to be willing to read. There are a lot of there's such incredible stories being told in a medium that is accessible to virtually everyone. But because it takes time and you have to sit down and it's not easily consumable necessarily, there are a lot of people who just aren't reading books. And that's a sad thing. Yeah, the challenge of getting people to read in general. But then with Sanderson, there is more of a challenge because a lot of his books are 1,000-page epics, especially if we're talking about the Stormlight Archive. And so if people know that is what you're trying to get them to read, I feel like the mental image that people have when you say, oh, I want you to read this book, and you pull out a 1,000-page tome is, oh, great, you want me to read the dictionary because that's the only other book that they've seen that is that thick.
Right, it's that big, right.
And so getting people to be willing to allow themselves to get sucked into a book of that magnitude, it's kind of like coaching people to get over their commitment issues. Because a 1,000-page book is a lot more of a commitment than a 300-page book. And even to some people, a 300-page book is a lot more daunting than the graphic novels that they read to their children. So getting people to actually be willing to read and be willing to read something so large I think, is the most difficult thing.
Yeah. I've heard people saying, well, man, there's there's so much Cosmere. I go, oh man, I don't want to start because then I have to read everything. Which you don't have to read everything. You just pick one thing. Read Mistborn. It's dynamite. Start there. That's a great thing to read. And like you said, I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting with Way of Kings, even though it is the best thing ever written. Whatever. But then on the flip side, I hear this all the time online that people don't want to start something that's not finished. Have you heard that? That's
exactly the issue that my brother had with Robert Jordan. As he never started Wheel of Time because Robert Jordan was going to die, and so he thought it was never going to be done. And
Brandon has stated that the Stormlight is going to be 2 5-book novels.
Arcs.
We're 2 5-book sets he's writing right now the 5th book of the first set. So, I mean, it might be another 20 years before it's completely done or more. But so sometimes people fight that, and then, so it's just, I don't know. I just feel like people find excuses to not read. But one thing I will say is that I feel like reading is making a resurgence. I see more and more. Maybe it's just my TikTok. Maybe I'm just on book talk or whatever.
You've just gotten to that side of TikTok.
Yeah. A lot of people are reading more, and it's, he's gaining popularity. He has the highest Kickstarter of all time by double.
I do think, particularly with the popularity of audiobooks now, there are people who are consuming books in that way. And I know there are purists who are like, oh, that's not reading, but it's consuming a story.
Let's just stop that right now, everybody. Look, you're getting the words that the author wrote into your brain. And that's the end of that discussion. Okay? That's the end of that discussion. Okay? The words that the author wrote are in your brain. You got you read the book.
You are consuming the story. That's it's annoying to me to be like, oh, I don't actually read, but I listen to books. I'm like, no, you read this book. You have experienced that book. And reading it is that's shorthand for experiencing and consuming the story contained in a book.
My wife likes to call it ear reading.
Oh yeah. I do think with audiobooks becoming so popular, that is allowing a lot more people to be able to get into books again. I know with this recent giant, massive, huge, insane Kickstarter, more than 50% of the Oh, no, not with the Kickstarter. With the most recent Mistborn book, with Lost Metal, over 50% of the pre-orders for the book were audiobook. And so there is a huge amount of people out there who that is how they consume stories. And
I bought the book and then bought the audiobook because I was buying it, but I commute, man, and it's just easier for me to listen to it than it is for me to read it, you know. And so he got double the money from me. What about being a Cosmere fan, reading it, jumping into it, fills your bucket? Why do you do this?
I love it. It's fascinating. I just finished this morning. I finished reading Secret Project 1 from that giant, massive, crazy, insane Kickstarter. Finished it this morning, and it's so good.
Secret Project 1. I gotta say, I knew they were coming out. It was New Year's. We stay up till midnight, and just right before bed, I go to check my email. I'm like, "What's this email? Links, honey!" Like it escaped my mind. Yeah, Secret Projects. If you did back the Kickstarter, you got a surprise in your email.
If you didn't back the Kickstarter, the ebook for Secret Project 1 is going to be publicly available on the 10th. So even if you missed out on the Kickstarter,
probably after that. So
then it's already available.
There you go. Yeah, I saw some people through Secret Party New Year's parties. Secret Project New Year's parties where they all got together and they threw, they had like hidden hoids all over and they made rock stew and all that stuff. And then they all stayed up and then all of a sudden there was no more talking anymore because everyone was reading. That sounds like a good time. So now this is kind of a weird question, and there might not be an answer for this because a lot of times I'm having musicians on. I talk about bad experiences. Have you had a bad gig? Have you had maybe someone cheaped out and didn't pay you or whatever? But this is a question I ask everyone. Have you had any maybe bad experiences with the Cosmere or with your time doing this?
Very few. With my interaction with the Cosmere. I mean, reading the Cosmere, I have had exactly 0 bad experiences. I have read virtually everything that Brandon has published, except for the end of Wheel of Time. I will get there.
You even went to BYU, right?
I did.
And you, right?
I have read his master's thesis. Yes, I have read Dragonsteel, the no longer canon, heavily stolen from for the rest of his stories. I've read that. Yes, I've read a lot of his unpublished stuff. I've read White Sand, of course, which basically everyone has at this point. If you haven't read White Sand and you are a Sanderson fan, come on. There's a link to it in every single newsletter from him. Yeah. Read White Sand. I've read Aether of Night, which is the story itself is no longer canon, but the magic system is. I've read the early drafts of Mistborn, which is really interesting, where he's developing that magic system, but the world is completely different. I haven't read Way of King's Prime.
He said he's going to release those. He said he's going to release Aether of Night Prime and Mistborn Prime and maybe Dragonsteel Prime. Maybe not Dragonsteel Prime, but he said he's going to release those. That's going to be cool, man. I did read Way of King's Prime, though. I got one up on you on that one.
Yeah, see, I haven't read Way of King's Prime. It's on my shelf right there, but that is one that I just have not had time to dig into yet because there's
weird,
a new release from Sanderson every other month. So.
Yeah, Way of King's Prime is weird. You know, because the names are different, and so you're reading it, you're like, who's this? And then you're like, but it's not that person, because not only are the names changed, the character's a little different, and anyway.
That's how I felt reading Mistborn Prime, because a lot of elements in the story are the same. Like, I knew the twist that was happening at the end, because it's a twist that's already in Mistborn. I'm like, oh, so this is, yep, there it is. But the world is completely different, and elements of the magic system are different. But yeah, that was a little trippy reading Mistborn Prime.
Yeah, but any specific bad experiences that you can think of, or maybe something you didn't like as much, or I don't know.
My bad experiences with Sanderson have not come from the books or Sanderson himself. They've come from the very small minority of the fandom that enjoy hating on Sanderson while reading Sanderson for some reason. There are a lot of people.
Weird. Okay, not a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, I don't understand it. But they're particularly the past couple weeks actually on TikTok and on several Reddit threads, because I'm in a group with a bunch of other content creators on TikTok that focus on Sanderson, and there have been huge discussions of like, these people are in my comments again, and there are people who will just hate on Sanderson for his beliefs and assume that then applies to all of his work and all of the people that enjoy his work. And interacting with those people, which again is the very small minority, most of everyone else I've ever talked with or met who enjoy Sanderson have been delightful, and they're very polite. Like, I went to the Dragonsteel convention this last November, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, it was incredible. But there are very few people who interact with Sanderson fans that just spew hate, and those people are less than awesome.
Yeah, it is weird that it's like that, you know, that people think that Brandon interjects his religion into his writing or whatever, which I feel like he does that way less than other, you know, religious authors. You know, I feel like he does it much less than Orson Card does, for example. You know, like my mom read Mistborn and she was really enjoying it, and then she didn't like the end of Hero of Ages because she said it was too Mormon. I was like, what are you talking about? I like, whatever. But you know, and I feel like, I don't know, I just don't see it at all, you know, in his writings. I feel like, you know, Brandon is a very good writer who is, you know, Mormon. And I don't think those, you know, overlap. And he even will tell you, you know, in the way he writes his afterlife in his books, it's like you know, perceive the afterlife however you want to perceive it. You know, there's not even a specific way that it is in my books, because it's open to interpretation based on the reader, you know,
The really frustrating thing for me is when people say, oh, Brandon's Mormon, and the Mormon church is bad, and therefore he is bad, and therefore his writing is bad, and therefore people that like him are bad. Like, that's so the thing that has been going on. It's
so weird.
And it baffles me, because people that belong to a particular church are not necessarily bad, even if that church does things that are not great. Like,
I've talked about it on this podcast before. I'm a Christian, Christ following, believing person. Okay. Dude, I make mistakes. The Christian church is, throughout history has made tons of mistakes, right? We're, it's riddled, right? With the mistakes that we've made. I mean, we've splattered the blood across Europe, right? But that doesn't change the fact that I, as a believer-y person, just tries to be more like Jesus. Mm-hmm. At the core, that's what I believe, right? And so, it doesn't affect how good or bad I am at guitar, right?
Right.
So if you look at, and you're like, hey, I can't listen to Adam play guitar. He's a Christian guy. What does that have to do with now? I mean, when I'm playing guitar at church, that's a different thing, right?
Sure.
Well, I don't want to go to listen to Adam play guitar at church. Well, then don't. But if I'm playing with my, if I'm playing at a gig, whatever, anyway, whatever. That's a big
my favorite way to think about it actually is with a quote from one of Brandon's novels, and it's said by a character who is firmly and decidedly atheist.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. She says, so a quote from a staunch atheist, she says, in relation to people who are religious and believe strongly in a certain religion that is basically the state religion of this fantasy society, she says, the wise among them will find goodness and solace in their faith. The fools would be fools no matter what they believed. And that to me it makes so much sense, because if you want to be a good person and you want to improve the lives of those around you and add light to the world, you are going to do that regardless of whether you're religious or not. And if you aren't religious, great. If you are religious, awesome. If you want to be a bad person and just tear people down, religion is not going to stop you. It will likely be a tool for you to do that. And so if you're going to be good, you're going to be good. If you're not, you won't. Religion is not really going to make a difference either way. It's a tool for whatever you want to become.
Yeah. Great. Do you have, as you navigate the Cosmere and Brandon's works, something you might consider a guilty pleasure?
I have an idiosyncrasy, I think.
Okay.
I really enjoy collecting the books. Like, I am a hardcover slut. Like, I want the paper. I want the experience of turning the pages. I want to do that with my hands and fingers while I'm experiencing it. And so I have a lovely collection of books on my shelf here. I don't know.
We can see some of them.
I got the stuff.
You got some leather bounds, and
I got the Way of Kings leather bounds. I've got, these are all, many of these are first editions just because I buy them when they come out. And so I like having the book. I also really like having a burner copy where it's this.
I like that.
This copy of Hero of Ages.
This goes squarely into our next question, which is a veteran move. I actually have a question. Do you have a veteran move? Tell us about this burner copy.
Have a burner copy. So I've got my nice ones that I will flip through occasionally, but I have burner copies where if I want to find something, or if I want to take time and read this, if I want to read this on the go, I've got a burner copy of the book where that is what I can not worry about tearing up. It's harder when...
Notes? Do you take notes in those? Come on, man. If you got a burner copy, you got to make usage of it, man.
Okay, here, veteran move. I have ebooks of basically everything. And ebooks you can search, and you can annotate, and you can link things. So everything...
You really are a nerd, man.
I am a hardcore nerd. Yes, absolutely. I was reading Secret Project 1 all yesterday and today. And whenever I got to a point where oh, this is significant, I would swipe over and I've got a Google Doc where I'm just taking notes like this thing is here in this chapter, page this, go to, oh my gosh. Because, I mean, a lot of it is simply because I am also a content creator focusing on this stuff as well.
Sure.
And
yeah, you need it for your channel. Yeah.
I need it because I'm going to be making a video about Secret Project 1, hopefully I mean, my goal would be by the end of this week, but I might not make it, maybe the end of next week. And so I want to keep track of these things because I need to make content. But even more so, I want to keep track of these things because I think it's fascinating. And having multiple ways to interface with the text, whether it's from a fancy book that stays on my shelf or with a burner copy that I don't feel bad about loaning out and then never getting back, or with an ebook that just allows me to search and research a lot more effectively. I love learning more and delving more into these worlds, and having different ways to do that makes it a lot easier to do so.
Yeah. You know, you said copy, annotating and highlighting. I was reading Secret Project 1 just last night, and there was a line that was, in my mind, it was so hopeful and inspirational. I was like, I have to, I'm reading an ebook and I can just highlight it. Like,
yep.
And I read it to my wife and she's like, okay. And it hit me like hard, you know, and for her, it wasn't.
I have several colors that I use in my annotations of my ebooks. Like, oh, this is just a good quote, or this is significant for story purposes, or this is something that is revealed later. Yeah. I make use of all of those different highlighter colors.
Okay. So I'm going to change the order of two questions here because I want you to give us, if someone right now, and people have asked this question all the time. So someone's sitting here right now and they say, hey, look, Brandon, he's the most popular fantasy writer in the world. And this sounds interesting, but this sounds like a big lasagna to eat. Okay. Where do I start? And I'm going to Steve from R.A.F.O for advice. Okay. Where would you tell people to start?
If someone is wanting to dive into the Cosmere, they know they are wanting to eat that whole lasagna. They just don't know where to stab their fork in.
Or maybe they're not sure. Maybe they're not sure. Maybe it looks like it's a spinach lasagna. They're not sure if they like spinach lasagna. They're not sure if they want it. Where do they dive in to see if they like it? Well,
okay, I have different answers for each of those questions then, because once again, I'm a nerd and I know things.
I'm sure you have a definitive Steve reading order, right?
I do. I have a definitive Cosmere reading order.
I've seen that video of yours.
Yeah.
Right? You had a video, right? Okay.
The Decoy would Trafo a tank at Miswa. The definitive Cosmere reading order, if you want to read and find out all the things and notice connections in the most satisfying way. Yes. So I have three different answers for that question. The first is if someone is committed, they know they want to dive into Sanderson, and they may be daunted about the amount of reading they'll have to do, but they know they will want to do that reading, I recommend starting with Elantris. Because that's the first book that Brandon published. His writing style is the weakest in that book. Right. And as you read, starting with Elantris and then go through the rest of the Cosmere books, you will notice and appreciate the improvement of his writing style. For sure.
Yeah. And also if you read that one and you like it, because it is still pretty good. If you read that one and like it, you're going to like everything else, because that one's like the least strong. It's still good. So if you like that one, if you like that one, you're going to like everything else. Probably.
Absolutely. And as I say in the definitive Cosmere reading order, if you want to read and find out all the things and notice connections in the most satisfying way.
Sorry to interrupt. I will put a link to that in the show notes, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put a link down in the notes below.
Excellent. So the reason why I say start with Elantris, if you know you're going to take that plunge, it's got you start with the very beginning of his writing style and you see that improve, but also because it was his first published novel, the connections with everything else in the world are minimal. There are, in the Cosmere, are minimal. There are a few things here and there that you may notice, like there's that random Hoid guy, but most of the things that show up in later books are references back to previous books in that order that I made. But if you are not sure that you want to dive into the Cosmere as a whole, if you want to just see if this Brandon guy is worth reading, I would recommend starting with Mistborn. That's where I started. Mistborn is my favorite book in the Cosmere. I love Way of Kings. I love the Stormlight Archive. Mistborn is my favorite. And it's
nice
for people who are less familiar with fantasy. It's a much more easily digestible world. The world building is great and compelling, but it's not as alien as, say, the Stormlight Archive. But again, the magic system is really clear and understandable, and the story itself is really interesting. And so I typically, if someone says, I want to read Sanderson, but I don't know where to start, I usually say start with Mistborn. If someone does not read fantasy at all, and I recommend, hey, read this Brandon Sanderson guy. I had this experience with one of my brothers he reads a lot of nonfiction, but he knows that I love Sanderson. So he's like, well, what should I read? Give me a Sanderson book. And for him, I recommend starting with The Emperor's Soul, which is
that's a good
significantly shorter than any of Sanderson's other Cosmere books.
It's like a novella, right?
It's a novella, It's between like 80 and 100 pages, so it's fairly short.
Right.
But again, the story is really interesting and compelling. It's a very good snapshot of what Brandon is as a writer.
Right. Dude, Emperor's Soul is so good. I love it.
It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. It's super good. And I'll just say, like, I had Mistborn pitched to me like this. And I think a lot of people have used this pitch, which is like, imagine, and I think even Brandon has said this. So, like, imagine if at the end of The Lord of the Rings, Sauron had won and it's 1,000 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's also a heist movie mixed with My Fair Lady. You know, it's kind of
it's Ocean's 11 and My Fair Lady.
Ocean's 11. But it takes place 1,000 years after Sauron won at the end of Lord of the Rings. And if that doesn't sound amazing, like, why do you even, then go read something else, you know? Go read a historical fiction or something, you know?
The great thing, though, about Sanderson is he doesn't just have the Cosmere. So I've also recommended people...
There are other things...
Yeah, there's the Reckoners series, which are superheroes. If you're really into superheroes, that's the most interesting take on superheroism that I have ever read. The Skyward series, which is his young adult...
good.
Yeah, fantastic. Sci-fi. There's the Legion novellas that are really interesting, that are more like crime dramas. Like, he's dipped his toe in virtually every single genre. And so if someone is more comfortable reading in a particular genre, there is a Sanderson for them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, not every single genre, because I don't think he's written anything that doesn't have any magic in it. I'd love to see him just write a straight, like, no magic, no surprises. I don't think he has, man.
Okay, no, you can't.
Like, no fantasy,
can't
no magic.
Say Alcatraz. Can't say
and Alcatraz is really good.
Alcatraz is fantastic.
Alcatraz is really good. I would read that with my kids. I would read it out loud to them, and it's like all these characters have their magic is that they have really like dumb superpowers. And
they're really good at doing bad things. Basically,
we always called it dumb superpowers, and then the magic was how Brandon would twist their dumb superpowers to his advantage. And then we played these games. Is that the kids would think of these dumbest superpowers, and I would try to like figure out how to. It was so much fun when they were little, and we would do that. Try to
how to Sandersonize
how we
it.
would use the. How to use those dumb superpowers to get out of crazy situations.
That's one thing that I actually have tried to convince people, even people who love and adore Sanderson and have read all of the Cosmere. I have had struggles trying to convince people to read Alcatraz for some reason, because
it's dumb, it's silly, but it's fun, man.
It's so good. It's fun. It's fluffy, but it has nuggets of brilliance and like serious depth to it. Alcatraz is definitely worth the read.
And honestly, if you're a Brandon Sanderson fan and you're not reading the Skyward,
Skyward is impeccable.
It's marketed as a YA, but dude, it's fire. My daughter loved it, and she read it, and she's like, I understand what a Sanderlanche is now. Like that first one, once again, had all the hallmarks. There's a interesting magic. There's a sympathetic antagonist. The whole time there's like, I don't want to spoil it, but there's this bad guy, this antagonist, not a bad guy. It's an antagonist, person that's anti the protagonist. And you learn, if you were in the same place, you would probably be doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about that book is, you learn this truth in that book, this whole truth that she's been fed her whole life. And then you learn the truth, and it's worse. It's not even what she thought. It was actually worse than what she thought. And anyway, it's great. That's a super good.
My favorite moment in the Skyward series comes in the second book. There's a chapter in book 2 in Starsight, where I 100% believe that if everyone on Earth read that chapter and understood it in context, there would be no war.
Wow.
Like, they're young adult books, but they are incredible and definitely worth reading.
Yes. This episode of the N+1 podcast has been brought to you by earlier episodes of the N+1 podcast. We've been going now strong for about 3 months, and I've just been having about the most fun of anything I've ever done. And we've had a number of amazing episodes. Some of those early episodes have flown under the radar, and I was hoping that you, if you are a new listener, would go back and maybe check those out. We had some episodes where we talked to Adam Malore about the life of being a YouTuber and what it's like to try to gain followers like I'm doing here today. That was a really interesting episode. We talked to my beloved sister Bethany about what it's like to be a quilter. We talked to Courtney Pong about improv. We talked to my good friend Gabe, who fed me scotch. Some episodes after that, we talked to my coworker Josh Gomes, and he is a prospector, and he talked to me about prospecting for gold and showed me an amazing trick about using moss to prospect. We talked to my good friend John C. Brown about being an actor. We just had some amazing episodes, and some of those episodes have gotten lost in the mix. So I encourage you to go back and check out some of those early episodes if you've missed them. I think you'll really enjoy them. Also, one other thing I wanted to point out, because I'm looking at all the numbers, is that I noticed that most of you are consuming this podcast on YouTube, which is great, and I love to see you there. Hi, YouTube. But this podcast is also available through all media podcasts and hosting and streaming services. It's available on Spotify. It's available on Apple Podcasts. It's available on Stitcher. It's available anywhere you get podcasts, including Audible or whatever. If you are a person that drives around a lot like I do, this is a great way to consume the podcast. And so I encourage you to check out the podcast there. It's a great listen. I actually, after I make these podcasts and they release, that's how I get them. And if you haven't really been paying attention, the podcast comes out every Thursday. The audio comes out Thursday morning, maybe around 6 or so that I can listen to it on the way to work. And then the video will come around 11 or so. Last of all, if you are enjoying any of these episodes, I always would like to ask you to share this episode or any episode with someone that you think might enjoy it. Just pick one episode, find one person you think might enjoy it, and share that with them, whether it's an audio or a YouTube, and just send that over to them, and that would really help to grow the show. I would really appreciate it. Okay, guys, we're going to get you back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Well, let's kind of get towards the end here, and I'm going to lift the spoiler ban, okay? And I'm only going to say, if you would refrain, because I haven't finished it, to refrain from Secret Project spoilers, but anything else. And if you are a Sanderson fan and you are trying to avoid spoilers, you can skip ahead, and I will drop in a time in post of when you can skip to where we are stop talking about spoilery things, okay? If you are trying to avoid spoilers, you can jump ahead to time marker 1 hour and 16 minutes. And that should jump you ahead and avoid all the spoilers that we talk about coming up. Thank you. Because I want to give you free reign to talk about your favorite. What is your favorite moment in Stormlight? And I'll just I mean,
yeah, you've got your costume.
I'm loud and proud
yes.
right now. To me, it's the greatest written moment in history. Honor is dead. I'll see what I can do. I mean, it chills.
And then one chapter later, you get the worst moment in written history. And for my boon.
Yeah, it's the worst. Oh my gosh. But oh my gosh. I mean, Kaladin against 4 shard bearers by himself.
Right.
I mean, that's to me
it's incredible.
The best. But anyway.
Whitespine Uncaged. Yes, that chapter. It's very good.
But I don't want to put words in your mouth. What is your
so
out of the whole all of the Sanderson works, what is your favorite maybe moment or quote or the thing that is maybe most inspirational or gives you chills or I mean, what's your favorite thing?
Again, I've got multiple answers for that question.
It is up. You can give me a couple.
As I've said, Mistborn is my favorite. It was how I got into Sanderson, and it's how I recommend people get into Sanderson typically. Like, the story of Mistborn is incredible. I've read the entire Mistborn Era 1 trilogy 5 or 6 times, and I have wept like a child at the end every single time.
Yeah.
That might not be my... It's my favorite. I'm not going to say how many favorites I'm allowed to have, but it is my favorite. There are a lot of favorites, and this is one of those my favorites. The ending of Mistborn Era 1 is absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best endings of a series that I have ever read. And just everything gets wrapped up. Like narratively, it's gorgeous. And the story itself is incredible. And my favorite part of Sanderson in general, but is in specific the ending of Mistborn Era 1, at the end of Hero of Ages, when, spoilers for Mistborn.
Yep, we already gave the spoilers. We already gave the spoiler warning. It's fine.
When Sazed realizes that the prophecies of the Hero of Ages specifically say that they will carry the fate of the world on their arms and not shoulders, but on their arms. And going back to the very first page of the first book of Mistborn, in the epigraph of chapter 1, it says the Hero of Ages will carry the world on their arms. Like the first thing that you read in the first book directly points to the end of the third. And that is incredible to me. The amount of things that Sanderson is able to slip past you that you don't notice until you get to the end is amazing. And that happens with absolutely every single one of his books. It's my favorite moment is that end of Mistborn. But again, that occurs with riddled through Stormlight, and just these tiny hints that this is going to happen and you're going to get to this moment, but you're not going to think that this random little dropped thing is significant until 3,000 pages later. It's such a mastery of the art of writing a novel I have not seen anywhere else. Yeah, that's probably my favorite moment. Just narratively and literaturally, because it's not literally, literaturely. We'll go with that. Ending Mistborn Era 1. Nope, that's different too.
I know that was a joke. No, that's an amazing moment. You know, I feel like, and this is why you reread, right? Because
absolutely,
I feel like Brandon Sanderson has this way of foreshadowing that the first time you read it, it feels like he's foreshadowing with a feather. And the second time you reread it, you're like, no, he's foreshadowing with a sledgehammer. And we just didn't see it. You know, like the second time you read it, you're like, he was not being subtle, and we were just too dumb to notice the first time. But the first time you read it, you don't see these things. You don't see, all these things like about the prophecies about the hero of ages not having a gender.
With Vin's earring.
Right. Oh my gosh. The earring.
Vin's
over and over and over and over
should
again.
have been so clear to all of us. But nope.
Right. Nope. Right. And my favorite, the Hero of Ages, I love being around someone who's reading Hero of Ages, because no matter where they're at in the book, I can just tell you it gets better. Like, no. I'm like, yeah. Where are you at? Oh, I'm at blah, blah, blah. And don't worry, it gets better. What do you mean? Where are you at in the book? Well, the colos are, it gets better. It's just, that book is just one giant upward awesomeness. That book is awesome.
Similarly, specifically Hero of Ages is one giant downward spiral. Like, I was getting really
get higher
worried.
And higher and higher, yeah.
When I was first reading Hero of Ages, it's like, I am 40 pages away from the end. And there is no way everything could get the world's going to end and there's nothing that can be done.
Yeah.
Like there's not enough time here. And it's
one of the benefits of having a physical book in your hand.
Right.
Like there's not enough book for this book, yeah. And we kind of experienced that reading Lost Metal a little bit, because we felt like the intro the setup was so long. We're like, there's a lot that has to happen, left in this book. Anyway, there's so many great moments. You cannot have my pain. I'm a Stormlight guy. I mean, for me,
absolutely.
Oathbringer, it's the greatest thing it's my favorite thing of all time. I go back and forth, Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, but when I have to pick, I gotta pick Oathbringer. And,
yes,
there's just so many moments, Kaladin admitting that not admitting, but just realizing he can't save some, the people, and that someone else has to save them, coming just shy of that ideal, and then just, Dalinar grabbing and creating the, and then just Yasna just being a total boss across the field and just destroying fools like it's nothing, and Adolin just getting his butt whooped, and he's trying to help and he can't, and just the whole thing. Oh my gosh, my favorite. I love that book because the second you open the page for book 5, the second you turn the page, it's just Sanderlanche. Sometimes in the other books, you'd get to book 5. If you're not familiar with these books, these are huge tomes.
They're in different parts.
They're broken into different parts. They call them books. Book 1, book, in the other ones, when you got to book 5, there would be a couple chapters of build up before you got to that climactic section that our fans call us the Sanderlanche. In Oathbringer, it's just all Sanderlanche when you get to book 5, and I just love it. It's just nonstop. Anyway, but
one specific thing to mention, I think, that makes Sanderson's writing so much more compelling and interesting to me than virtually any other author that I've read. In relation to Whitespine Uncaged and Honor is Dead, etc., his fight scenes are so clear to read.
Very clear. Yep.
In reading other fantasy authors' fight scenes, the fight scenes are very muddy, and it's like this person fought and they swung their way through the battlefield or whatever. With Sanderson, you know exactly what is happening, and swing for swing, and it's not tedious to read either. Right. The fight scenes are very clear and compelling and engaging, and that is one hallmark of Sanderson that I am eternally impressed with.
Right. It's clear what the magic is doing. It's clear what the people are doing. It's clear what's going on. That's for sure. Definitely.
So I have very visual, and I love it.
Yeah. I have a section that's called Let's Get Into It. Is there something, Cosmere, that we can do right now together? I don't know if you had a chance to think about it. I don't know if you looked at the questions at all, but it's just a section, something that we try to do together. Like when we had someone that did improv. We did a 5-minute improv game. If we can do something together, can't always do something. But I was just thinking, is there something we can do together right now that is the Cosmere?
Absolutely. As long as the spoiler embargo is still lifted.
Just go for it.
Let's theory craft here. What is your pet theory for the Cosmere.
Okay. What's my theory?
What's your favorite theory? Yeah.
Okay. My pet theory, like, personally, I feel like it's pretty obvious that Hoyd is going around collecting magic systems. And I don't know how effective it's being because of, like Lost Metal or like the Mistborn Era 2 is like after Stormlight Era 1. And I don't know how much magic he has there. So like maybe he's trying to acquire magic from different systems and maybe it's not working. But we know he has Yolish light weaving. He goes and gets himself a spren, to try to, and he becomes a light
he has
weaver.
Rosharan light
and
weaving.
I know he has a bunch of other things. Right. He has some other things going on. So I feel like he's just like traveling the Cosmere with all of his other stuff that he can do. Right. Which, he's basically invincible. He can't hurt anybody, which is weird. He can't eat meat, which is weird. But I feel like he's traveling the world, traveling the Cosmere, and I feel like he's trying to collect magic systems. But I feel like it's not working. So maybe he's gonna when he realizes it's not working, he's gonna have to make a different plan. So that's my idea. What about you?
My favorite theory that a little bit got squashed with the release of Lost Metal, but not entirely. I really think we are going to see Wax in the second arc of Stormlight.
Really? Ooh.
Yeah. I think Wax is going to go off-world, and we're going to see him in the second arc of Stormlight. The fact that he's specifically mentioned by Sazed in the epigraphs of, I believe it is Oathbringer, that Sazed says in one of his letters to Hoyd, split up in the epigraphs, he says that he's working on crafting a sword. And so, like, Wax is mentioned, at least obliquely, already in Stormlight. I think Wax is going to show up in the second arc of Stormlight. And that is the reason why Stormlight Era 2 had to take place between the two 5-book arcs.
Interesting. Okay, I got one more. As long as we're doing it together.
Let's do it.
Knowing that we only know for Twinborn, we only know a couple of them, right? If you could Twinborn anything, what would you Twinborn?
I have an answer to that immediately. I got this, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, this I received as my secret Sazed gift 2 years ago. This, a lovely little wall hanging. This is the allomantic symbol for bronze. This is the feruchemical symbol for bronze. I would be a double bronze, because then you could compound bronze, and the feruchemical ability for a bronze user is storing sleep, or storing wakefulness. And so being able to compound bronze, where you invest bronze and then burn it allomantically, which gives you a supercharged oomph of the feruchemical power, you'd never need to sleep. You could just be constantly, fully, and completely rested without ever sleeping.
Miserable.
Oh, man,
I love sleep.
I'd get so much done. Bronze compounding I'd be so freaking productive, and it'd be amazing.
Okay, so I have one. I don't remember what the metals are, but I want like luck, the allomancer,
chromium.
Luck, and then dang it, what was the other one? We were talking about this the other day with my kids. Luck, so chromium and electrum.
Okay.
So you can see the future and have luck. What do you think about that?
That could be really interesting, particularly because Electrum is seeing your own potential future. And so that could be really, really interesting, particularly paired with feruchemical chromium. Because seeing the options that are in front of you and then being able to tap into the
luck
most beneficial of those options, I think that would be really interesting. Yeah, that'd be great.
Right?
I could get behind that.
Then the hard part would be when you have to store luck.
Right. Just stay locked in a room. Don't do anything.
But here's the thing. I had to think about this because I was thinking about this exact thing, which is that, if like there's no getting around, it's like bad luck is bad luck. You go like into a locked room, you start storing luck, and then like the girders break, you know, like bad luck is bad luck, man. You start storing luck and your uncle dies or your cat, you know, or like bad luck is bad luck. So, you know, you just got to give yourself the luck version of the sniffles for like a long time. You got to be careful with it.
Potentially more interesting way to approach that is, what if ferrochemical chromium, when you store fortune, is similar to ferrochemical steel, storing speed? So if you're storing speed but you're not moving, you're not actually storing anything. Or was it brass? No, brass is heat. Whichever ferrochemical metal stores calories. Like you can just eat and eat and eat, and you can store that chemical energy in a metal mind. But if you're not eating, you're not storing anything. So if you are in a situation where luck, fortune has no impact, if you are locked in a room, would you actually be storing anything?
Right.
So
exactly.
Does that mean, like, in order to store luck, you have to actively be going about and doing things that are unlucky in order to store the good luck up?
I know what you could do is you could go and like play cards and store luck, but with low stakes.
Okay.
Right. You know, like you play like the penny slots, right? And you're just like storing luck. Oh, there goes, you know, you lose like 200 times in a row.
Every single time.
But it's the penny slots, man.
Okay. Or you just get really good at being really bad at Minesweeper. Just like, and click. All right. Yep. There was the mine. And next one, click. Yep. There it is. And click. Hitting the first one every time. Like,
okay. Well, we've been having a good time. It's been a pleasure having you on, but we're going to get to the big question of the day, which is, and I think I'm going to say spoiler time is over.
Spoiler embargo is back on.
Yeah, back on. But what is in the Cosmere? And this is pretty obvious, I feel like, but what is N+1? What is next in your experience of the Cosmere?
In my experience of the Cosmere, I just finished Secret Project 1, and that was incredible and amazing, and I'm really excited for you to read it because it's so good.
I'm really enjoying it.
So in terms of my consumption of Sanderson's writings, I actually, sitting underneath my computer right there, I have the 6th book of Alcatraz that I have read the first chapter of. My wife read it completely. We got it. It came out basically on her birthday, and so we got the whole set for her birthday. But I have not read the last Alcatraz book, which
Bastille versus the Librarians.
Bastille versus the Evil Librarians. I have not read that yet, and that is probably going to be what I'm aiming for next in terms of my own Sanderson consumption. I also, as a content creator, I am working right now on a book review and spoiler intensive connections video for Secret Project 1, because there is a lot that happens there, and I'm really excited to dig into it.
Nice. Well, Steve, thank you so much for coming on. How can people find you, get in touch with you, follow your content? Where can people find you?
You can find me on basically all of the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I even have a Twitter that I will occasionally say things on. And of course, my YouTube channel. Those are all at the Cosmere Knot. Whatever social media platform, at the Cosmere Knot, that is me. Most of my work is done on YouTube. That's where I release my videos, which are typically longer form deep dives into various aspects of the Cosmere. So if you would like to like and subscribe, it's me, your boy Steve.
There you go. You say longer form, but I mean, I make guitar repair videos, and my videos are like 30 to 45 minutes long, man. So your videos are tidy, man. They're nice.
I usually try under 10 minutes. A couple of my interviews with various people in the fandom have been longer. Like I had an interview with Steve Argyle, which is really interesting, that was upwards of a half hour. I had an interview with another creator that was solid half hour. But most of my videos I shoot for under 10 minutes. A couple of them are 12 to 15.
Great. Well, I got 2 silly questions, and we will get you out of here. Thank you so much for your time. This has been great. It's been great to
it's
finally
wonderful.
talk to you and just nerd out with fellow Sanderson nerds. But I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to casually drop the name of the most famous person you've ever met.
I'm Brandon Sanderson. Does that count? I mean, that's a gimme. I've met him several times. Being local to him, he does events, he does book releases and stuff. Back before he got really famous, he would have significantly smaller book releases at like the BYU bookstore, or there was a book release that he had in like a high school gymnasium that I went to, and he went to the release, if anyone is not familiar with this, the Kaladin album.
That's pretty good. I listened to it.
It's very good. This was done by a bunch of like local musicians. I went to high school with one of the people that wrote one of the songs on this. And so they had the like release party for this album really local to where I live, and Sanderson was there, and I like sat at a table and chatted with him for a solid 20 minutes. So yeah, he's definitely the most famous person that I've met. That's pretty good. Hey, that's a perfectly fitting answer for this episode of the podcast. It is apropos. That's awesome. And the last question, and we will get you out of here. No cheating on this one. What is, in your opinion, the all-time greatest cartoon theme song? Oh dear. With lyrics or without? It's up to you. Okay. This is what is, in your opinion. X-Men. That's a great one. We've had a couple like, X-Men. Classic X-Men. Yeah. Yep. I always say that's. Yes. I always say that's the one that I think would be the funnest to play in a band. Oh yeah. You know, like we've had a bunch of DuckTales, which is very singable. See, DuckTales was going to be my second choice. Yeah. DuckTales is awesome, and I feel like DuckTales would be great if you were the bass player. But I think if you're the guitar player, which I am, right? Yep. Exactly. But if you're the guitar player, I mean, I want to play X-Men. You know, like, oh yeah, it's got that guitar riff. You know? Yeah, totally. Well, Steve, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. I will catch you in the comments of your videos, like I always do. Excellent. But until next time, guys, this has been Adam from Miller's Custom Guitars. This has been Steve the Cosmere Knot from R.A.F.O, Read and Find Out. And that is the motto of all Sanderson fans, that we have to read and find out. But until next time, don't be a jerk.